Hello, this is Shan Chandrasekhar welcoming you to a delightful part of our programming. We have an extremely distinguished guest in the studio here with us today. She's an outstanding Canadian. At an extremely young age, she's accomplished a great deal. She was not only the former president and chief executive officer of Magna International, one of the biggest multinational conglomerates in this world. She's the daughter of an extraordinary pioneer and entrepreneur who has won many international awards, none other than Mr. Frank Stronach. And we are delighted to have Honorable Belinda Stronach here. Welcome to the program, Belinda.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's a pleasure having you, and our hearty congratulations to you, Belinda. You know, you've done some very daring moves. One of the biggest things I have to compliment you, you had an incredible career in the private sector. You were one of the youngest presidents and chief executive officers of one of the biggest multinational companies. And at a time like that, with a multi-million-dollar salary and perks that you had, you decided that country was more important, and you made a sacrifice, and you decided to go into politics. Tell me about that move.
Well, it was a big move for me, but I love this country. I love this community, and I've been fortunate in life. And I think sometimes when you are more fortunate, and it's important to give back. And I got involved in politics because I want to make a contribution to making not only my community stronger, but to making this country an even stronger and greater country than it is.
It's wonderful. You're a strong proponent for education.
Yes.
You've always been, you've been a believer in literacy. And I was very pleasantly surprised where you were quoted that 1% increase in literacy rate in Canada would make a huge contribution, a multi-billion-dollar contribution to the GDP of Canada.
Yes.
Tell me, define that for us.
We said about a 1% improvement in the literacy rate of Canadians will add about $18 billion to our GDP. I mean,
wow.
Literacy and essential skills is really the foundation on which to build, whether it's workplace skills or, you need that to get a good job. Is we've been able to negotiate a labor market partnership agreement that will apply to all the provinces, which we're focusing on a number of key areas, such as illiteracy, such as workplace skills, and essential skills for our Aboriginal Canadians. We're focusing on immigrants, recent immigrants to Canada, and also, for those that are more disadvantaged, low-income Canadians, to make sure that they have the right opportunities to get the right skills to be able to get a good job at the end of the day. And we've got a deal in place with Ontario. We signed one with Manitoba and with Saskatchewan, because in this competitive global economy we're in, I really believe that the way that Canada is going to be able to improve its quality of life is by investing in the know-how of our people and enabling people to get the skills and develop this culture of lifelong learning so that people at the end of the day can have a good quality job.
Fantastic. You just spoke about immigrants, new immigrants to this country, and I know you're very sensitive to the concept of immigration and the importance of immigration, and the and Canada's need for population growth is a significant aspect as well. Now, based on these, you've taken some initiatives.
We have many Canadians that are highly skilled that come to this country, but we have to make sure that those credentials that they have and the education that they have, that they're able to use those skills here in Canada. You'd be interested to know, one of the responsibilities that I have is for the rollout of Service Canada. And Service Canada is really changing the way that government interacts with Canadians. So to put it quite simply, instead of going 5 different places to get a government service, whether it's your passport or your social insurance number, or you're looking for training programs or credential assessment, things like that, you can go to one place now instead of 5 different government places.
Like father, like daughter, so your dad must have been an incredible inspiration for you when you were very young.
Yeah.
As a child growing up, tell me about, because your father is one of the greatest Canadians and he's one of the finest entrepreneurs of international stature. What he and you and your family have done with Magna, it'll probably be in the history books of this country for years to come. Tell me about the role model that your father provided for you when you were young.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to do that. First of all, he came to this country as a young man from Austria.
Right.
From Austria, both my parents did, but he came a little bit before my mother, and from a very poor family, so he came with only a few dollars in his pocket. He actually landed in Quebec City first and couldn't find a job, and then happened to have sort of the name of one individual from his hometown. He didn't even know him very well in his pocket, so he couldn't find a job. He hopped on a bus, was lucky that the fellow was home, and the guy took him in Kitchener, Waterloo area. So he did odd jobs for a number of years, and and was eventually able to save enough money to buy his first set of tools, and then he convinced General Motors to give him the first automotive contract, and that was the beginning of the company. But I think the lessons to be learned there are, coming from an immigrant background, and was first of all to appreciate this great country, to appreciate everything that you work for and that you have, and to give back to the community and give back to society if you're more fortunate to do so. So we didn't always have money, and through some hard work and through some good fortune and luck, my father did all right, and I'm very appreciative for that. I learned some important lessons growing up, though, and one thing I think, because he only had grade 8 education, and he was lucky to have a strong-willed mother that said you have to learn a trade, and he became a tool and die maker, but to always look at things with a fresh set of eyes, and that status quo wasn't necessarily the best way to do things. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't like something, get in there and fix it, get in there and change it. So perhaps that gets me in a little bit of trouble from time to time, but I think it's the way to go is don't complain about something, get involved, try to make it better.
Frank Stronach of Magna International Corporation. Arriving in Canada at the age of 21, all Frank Stronach had was a few $100s and the dream of opening his own business. Today, Frank's company, Magna International, is an automotive powerhouse. Magna started in 1957 in a rented garage where Frank put in long hours and slept next to his lathe. His quality workmanship would not go unnoticed. He soon earned a contract from General Motors, and he and the company have never looked back. Now employing over 80,000 people, operating over 300 factories and R&D centers in 23 countries, and generating annual sales in excess of $26 billion, it is safe to say that Frank has seen his dreams come to fruition. Yet Magna still continues to grow and expand. A motivated and determined man, Frank and the success story of Magna serve as an inspiration to all small business owners and entrepreneurs. It also reminds us all that no dream is too big. The Newmarket Chamber of Commerce would like to congratulate Frank Stronach on all of his achievements.
Belinda, talking of women, I think you're quite a role model yourself in your own right because of the Entrepreneurs Awards that you have received, and the top under 40 was again, was a classic award that you received.
I'm still under 40, so that's the best part of it.
That's wonderful. And then you've also been featured, showcased in Forbes magazine, Time magazine as one of the within the 100 most influential people in the world. So you're a role model yourself. Being the daughter of such a high-profile gentleman, plus being on a pedestal yourself.
Well, I appreciate you calling me a role model, and for me it's a great honor and a great privilege. And there's a good saying that well-behaved women rarely make history. So for me it's always been important. I'm Canadian first. I will always speak out for what I think is in the best interest of my community and in the best interest of this country. And to me it's always been important in life. It's not the label you wear, it's what do you stand for.
Politics is based on principles.
Politics is
now,
based on
you
principle.
crossed the floor based on those principles.
Yes.
Tell me about that period, because it was a bit of a controversial time for you at that time.
Well, that was a very difficult time for me, and I was one of the architects of the merger of the former, two conservative parties in this country. So I had a lot invested in this. So this decision did not come lightly. And I still believe that it's important for democracy in Canada that people have choice, that we do have an effective opposition. But there came a point in time where I said, look, I got in this to make a difference. I don't feel like I'm having as much impact as I would like to have. I feel the party, the Conservative Party, is not moving in the direction that honors and respects the values and the principles that I have. And I firmly believe, look, if this is my view, if you are passionate about this great country we have, that you believe in a united Canada, to me that's the most important. If you feel the economy should be managed well, and we do have an economy that's managed well, but if you also believe in respecting the society we've built, evolving the society, respecting and protecting the minorities, to me there's only one party, and that's the Liberal Party.
You represented the progressive thinking in the Conservative Party even at that time with respect to the issues dealing with same-sex marriage, for that matter. And you were an outspoken individual with respect to these philosophies.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that, because there was the real traditional conservative society of the old school of thought, and here you were representing really the majority of Canadians and their, the young school of thought. Tell us about that.
Well, to me, that was a big decision, and I think in some ways you got to look at it. It does reflect the differences in the parties, and to me, this is about equal rights. How can one class of citizen be less equal or more equal than another? To me, Canadians, equal rights is fundamental to our value system here as Canada, and we should celebrate that. I mean, we have such a tremendous country where so many different cultures can live together in peace and harmony. So this is something to protect and to celebrate. So I did support equal marriage. I believe when it comes to civil marriage by government, that people do have the right to participate in that, but that churches and religious organizations should also be protected to make sure that they can follow, their belief system. So I did stand for that. I do believe in equal rights for Canadians, and that we have to protect that and celebrate that, which is anchored in the Charter of Rights.
You are very highly literate yourself. You were on the Dean's Council, at Harvard. You've got a business background. You were well trained. You've got an honorary doctorate from McMaster University. So these are all, high accolades, and with the combination of both actual brass tacks and business experience and now political experience as well. And yet, because of your such high profile and your visibility, you're a celebrity. So you get the celebrity status in addition to that. So how do you feel about that? When sometimes, media pays undue attention on the brand labels that you support, because it's become very important for those brands now to be associated with you. That's how I look at it.
Well, sometimes it's, I just deal with it as it comes. It's part of the territory, and that's one of the things that's more difficult about politics. Everything you do is open, and you're open to public scrutiny, and your private life and your family life is no longer so private. But I just deal with that and focus and look ahead and say, what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to achieve? How do we bring about a better quality of life for Canadians? And you pointed out that my past business experience, I think it is very useful in government, because when I was CEO of Magna, we operated in 22 countries, and it did give me the chance to see the world and to see what is going on in other economies, and why it's so important for Canada to make sure that we do have a strategy in place for greater prosperity, for greater productivity, for greater economic growth, so that our economy can remain healthy, so we can have a high quality of life, so we can invest in good social programs. And I've had the great privilege to travel to China and many other countries. And while it is a great opportunity for Canada as well in opening up new markets, I do believe my past experience is very useful towards job creation and to making sure our economy remains strong, so we can reinvest back in this economy to make sure that our quality of life remains high.
Small business plays an extraordinarily vital role in terms of building a country. They are the pillars of this, the Canadian economy, or even the U.S. economy.
Yes.
Tell me about, the importance that you attach to small business and entrepreneurs.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. That small business has been the engine of economic growth in this country. Small business and medium-sized business and family businesses really create the most amount of jobs in this country. And so we have to make sure that our programs and our policies allow small business to be highly competitive, and that we encourage reinvestment back into those small businesses, back into the Canadian economy, because that's going to keep our economy healthy and our economy vibrant.
In one of your speeches, I noticed that you had actually referred, in terms of skills development, that the country's technology is changing so rapidly right now, that the trucking industry has to adapt itself to GPS technology in terms of geosynchronized orbit positions and satellite communications and two-way radio, for that matter, via satellite. Tell us about that, those initiatives.
Well, the world is becoming much more competitive and is very global, and that's the industry I come from. Actually, is the auto sector is one of the most globally competitive. So I know what we're up against, what we're competing against. So it's very important that we look in a very broad-based way how we encourage business to reinvest back in people. That training must be part of the culture that we create. Ongoing training, ongoing lifelong learning, because technology is advancing at such a rapid rate. We have to make sure that Canadian workers have the ability to participate in that and to learn, to upgrade their skills so they can keep those good jobs and hopefully even attain better jobs. And Canada is a nation that's blessed with tremendous natural resources. And we have to look, and it's through the know-how of our people that we add to those natural resources. For example, so we just don't ship lumber across the border, but that we look at secondary manufacturing processes that we can add value to those various commodities and natural resources. And that's really what job creation is.
It's wonderful. You know, you've done an incredible compromise between Canadianism and an international understanding. In other words, you've thought globally, you've acted locally, you've actually put that into practice. Tell me about that same philosophy in other industries as well. You know, we feel the same way about the broadcast industry, for that matter. I think we're very proud to be involved in the Canadian broadcasting system, so we definitely need the regulatory protection that Canada provides. At the same time, we don't mind opening up the airwaves, you know, in terms of, you know, fair and healthy complementing service rather than competing services. Tell me about that philosophy.
Well, the world doesn't stand still. You can't change back the clock. We are moving towards more and more globalization, more integration, more interdependence between our countries, and the world is shrinking or it's flattening out, however you want to say. So it's becoming more competitive. And I may sound repetitive myself, but this is why education is so extremely important, because technology is changing at such a rapid rate. And 2/3 of all future jobs are now going to require some kind of post-secondary education. And that doesn't only mean university degrees, it means college degrees, it means looking at apprenticeship programs and different kinds of ways of learning. So we have to be able to look at education and have this big important discussion around education, because to me it's the most important thing that we could do, invest in people. That's how we're going to be competitive as a nation. Yes, we must look at our tax structure and is it competitive, and our regulatory process, but investing in people to me is going to be the most critical thing that we do.
I've heard you talk about diversity in one of your recent speeches as well, at the Canadian Club for that matter. You placed an important role for diversity. Tell me about your, you know, true belief in diversity and how it can really enhance, you know, Canadian economy for that matter.
I think we are the luckiest country in the world because, like I said, we've got great natural resources, but we have great people resources as well. And what other country, you know, can you find so many different nationalities and cultures that live together and in peace and harmony and are able to celebrate those different cultures together. So to me, this is a great strength that Canada has, and why it's such a great country where people from all over the world want to come here and live here. And we have to make sure that we make greater progress on recognizing the great skills that the immigrants bring to this country, and that they're able to reach their full potential when they're here.
You know, you've also done a great amount of community service in your own right. Amidst your extremely busy schedule, you sit on the board of directors of the hospital here in the York region, South Lake Hospital, and your family has also donated substantial amount of money for the cancer care, the new center that's being built. Prosperity and community responsibility, you know, go side by side, and your family has been a great illustration of how, you know, you've been able to exhibit that. Tell me a bit about your commitment to the community.
It's part of the value system I grew up with, and that it's important. If you're able to do that, to give back to your community. And there are many ways to give back to your community, as you said, whether it's volunteering for an organization or giving some money to a hospital. There's many ways to contribute to your community or your country. But I also wanted to contribute in another way, and that's why I got into politics, to make sure that we do keep our quality of life here high, that we do keep jobs in Canada. But Canada also can play, I think, a great role in the world because of the great value system that we have, and we stand for democratic rights and principles. And I think as a developed, more prosperous nation, it's in fact our responsibility to be engaged globally and to help other nations to raise the quality of life that they have. Hello, my name is Belinda Stronach. I went to Africa in 2005, where I learned about the devastating effects of malaria. Each year, between 300 million and 500 million people will get malaria, and almost 2 million people will die of it. Every 30 seconds, an African child dies of malaria. It's the #1 killer of children in Africa. For $10, you can save a life, and you can buy a bed net to keep a child safe at night. For $10, the cost of a muffin and a coffee, the cost of a movie, or an iTunes album download, you can save a life. very privileged this summer to go for 12 days to Africa with a fellow by the name of Jeffrey Sachs, who's a remarkable man who's now working with Kofi Annan to achieve the Millennium Development Goals, where the goal is to cut poverty in half by 2015. So to me, that was very educational. It was a great opportunity to see other parts of the world and other challenges that citizens face in different countries around the world.
It's fantastic. You've always been passionately involved in your work. What do you do in your spare time?
Well, I have 2 children that I shouldn't say in my spare time, they're my number 1 priority, but they're 2 teenagers that I like to spend time with, and they're just awesome, awesome children. So that's what I like to do in my spare time when I relax. We hang out together and have fun together, and I enjoy people. I enjoy being with people. I enjoy what I do, and I'm very passionate about it. And
it's wonderful. Belinda, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
God bless you, and all the best, by the way.
All the best to you too, and it's a great honor to be on your show. You're quite a successful entrepreneur and a man that's full of vision and passion, so it's been a great time spent with you.
Well, it's an absolute honor to have you on the show with us today.
I think what you're doing is just amazing, and we are very proud to have you here. And you're a great inspiration. You're a role model, and I love the passion that you have and how you also care about this great country of ours, and it is just reflected in everything that you do, Shan. And there's a good little saying I'm going to leave you with. The only thing between you and your goals is you and your goals. And I know you have very big goals, and you think as big as you can, and you're going to double it.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's very, very sweet of you. Thank you.
All right.
It's
been a pleasure.
Likewise.